Another gorgeous pup has submitted his image for a pet portrait painting, and I'm using Atramentus document ink, which is a permanent ink. That means I can put it down on the paper and it will stay there when I apply a watercolor wash afterwards. Now I'm going to use watercolor pencils for the second stage of this because I take notice of what my patrons are telling me, and they're telling me that they would like to see a lot more watercolor pencil demonstrations. They feel there's not quite enough for the amount of demand, so I'll use a lot more watercolor pencils. And of course you know that I love the ink pen and the pencils, so I'm using a fountain pen, a very fine one, to apply this permanent ink, and it's a grey that I'm using and not a black. Now, using a grey is more forgiving than a black. It gives you a chance to work lightly and develop the lines darker where you need it. It's most forgiving if you're trying to do a drawing like this to start off with a pencil mark in maybe a 2H or a H or a HB if you like, something that will rub out easily if you don't get the lines exactly where you want them the first time. And then go in, as I've done, with, say, a medium tint ink, and then you can go back in with a black ink once you're clear on where you want your lines. If you go in with a heavy dark black in the beginning and make a slight error, it's a lot harder to fix. So be kind for yourself and work off lightly to begin with an erasable material, and then gradually put down the more permanent marks. And then, as I said, I will come in with the watercolor pencils. Now I could come in with any medium for the light color washes. He's a gorgeous dog. He really is. Now the secret of doing anything is to minimize, concentrate on getting the major pattern of light and shade in. You don't have to get every detail in. This is where I'm coming in with my first watercolor pencil, and I'm using a black and strengthening up the darker lines. Now I've also, in areas that you might have thought of as white, I blushed in a little bit of colour. I've used a light lemon and even a light mauve in there in the hair, because if you study the dog, a black dog or a dark grey dog, you'll see quite a lot of colour reflected if you look for it. Same as in a sky, a grey sky. There'll be probably influences of pinks and blues and lemons in that grey. It's what I call a luminous grey. It's not just a hard grey made up of black and white. This is where I apply the water to the watercolor pencil, and it's lovely just watching this pigment on the paper emulsify. You can also achieve the same thing if you put down water-soluble ink pen marks, because the ink will also emulsify. And I'm just using a nice sable brush, keeping it simple. I'm not trying to do a very detailed work. This is just a 20-minute session. Grab yourself a cup of coffee. See, I'm adding the mauve. It's not standing out as colour on the dog, but it's just enough to give the greys interest. And of course, it's getting near Christmas, so we've put a little Christmas rendition there. I do these for my patrons, and my print shop is in the comments. Thank you for subscribing and supporting my channel. It's most appreciated.